Hi, Wilna again. So this is part 2 of our little artist notebook, and in this video we're only making the inside pages with monoprinting, so brace yourself. It's a mess and I still don't know exactly what I'm doing, but it's a lot of fun. So honestly, I couldn't have had more fun. The only tip I'll give you right from the get-go is to just get lots of baby wipes, because there was a lot of cleaning involved. So I did edit this video rather severely because it was 2 hours long. So to get it condensed to 35 minutes, I cut out most of the cleaning and that part. So I hope you enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comment section. I'll answer you. If you're in here for the live chat, thank you. I'm sitting right here in front of my computer, chatting with you, and just say hi. Tell me where you are. Tell me what you're having for dinner. I would love to know. Chat is so much fun. And then lastly, remember to subscribe to my channel so that you don't forget or miss any videos that I post. Well, enjoy the video and I'll see you on the interwebs. Bye! Hi, so let's start. I'm using mixed media paper. The link is in the description below. You need 4 pages. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is mixed media paper, and I'm cutting it 8 inches by 8 inches, or roughly about 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. And then I'm putting 2 on top of each other, and I just marked the halfway line, which is 4 inches, and now I'm just going to stitch it just in the middle. I'll show you in a little bit. Quick stitch back and forth, and you can do it by hand, you can do it any way you want. I'm just lazy, you know me. So there you can see just a little line in the middle. So now you have, and you need 2 little booklets, so 4 pages with 2 pages in each gives you quite a few pages, you know. So I'm using my bone thing there, and I'm just straightening the pages, and now the fun starts. So I have an 8 by 10 jelly plate, and this is just that beautiful aqua color, and for a very first layer I'm just printing that color on my book. So I'm working in 2 pages at the same time. So in essence, I'm doing the same thing on both pages, and the outcome is slightly different, but at least it saves you a little bit of time. This is a beautiful blue, and now I'm going to print the stencil with those leaves that I used in my previous video. Just covering the sides, and I'm just going to print the leaves through the stencil, and you can see how beautiful it printed. I was so happy. So the main reason why I decided just to monoprint on these pages is because when you do an album with lots of molding paste and thick layers, it's just too hard to close. So I like it when I work in an album, and I've learned this when I was doing my little Starbucks albums, is that the thinner your layers, the better. So the monoprinting is perfect for this, because you can actually do a print and it is paper thin, but you can do it in layers. And that's why I love the Liquitex Basics paint that I'm using, because it has a transparent quality to it. So it's lovely to use on monoprinting. And I am just going to be printing lots of layers on my page, and I'm using the same paint, sometimes twice, because it just gives a different feel to it. There, I just printed it again. I have 3 different rollers that I'm using, because I find that it's good to have a black one, and then a white one, and then one that you can do colors with. So, and then I also used quite a bit of white monoprinting just to print back a white space, because I did make this little notebook especially for me, just to write down a couple things that I'm learning in this season. And so I really needed something personal for me to work in. Okay, so this is an illustration from my springtime collection, and I actually ended up printing these ones on silhouette sticker paper. So, and I think Cricut makes the same. It's bright white paper that you can print on, but you can remove the back and then it can stick down. Oh, I love it. So my only regret was that I only had two sheets left. So I probably would have printed a lot more if I had more sheets. But this worked great, so I didn't have to struggle with Mod Podge on these ones, but I did use Mod Podge on the leaves. And this is what I'm doing now. I'm actually going to print just a white plain paper sheet of green, and I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to use this to cut out some leaves. So this video is actually quite fast paced because I sped it up, and I also edited it quite severely because there's so much just so much content, and I didn't want it to drag on and on. So this is another sheet that I printed on the same sticker paper, so the little birds, and you can find these in my springtime collection. The link is in the description below, and you can just peel it off and then you can just stick it on. So voila, there you go. I am not very attached to anything in this project, meaning that I'm just willing to experiment. So I think that's another reason why I decided to do the monoprinting, because I wanted this exercise in a lot of repetition. I wanted to try a lot of techniques with my monoprinting because I've never really used it. Look how pretty that is. Just printing through a stencil. I've never used a jelly plate really, so I'm still getting to know it, figuring out what I can do, what I can't do. And that image on the jelly plate right now is beautiful. So I'm just turning to a blank page and I'm just printing it in the second little book, or first one, however. Look how beautiful that is. Just stunning. I did make a mistake or two that I regretted, that I'm like, oh no, I wish I could hit Command Z on this one, you know, so it's a learning curve. But I also decided just to give myself lots of grace. This blue paint is very old. I think it's back from 2014, so it's really tacky, and this is also when I realized you shouldn't be using tacky paint on your jelly plate. It just doesn't print well, doesn't mix well, and you know, in general it's just horrible to work with. I'm using a lot of areas that I cover up. So for instance, I would cover up areas that I want to print or that I don't want printed, and I print a lot of strips. And the reason for that is just to make, I like the blocking idea, you know, the color blocking, and I also wanted a space to write. And this is a very cool thing that I do, that I figured out. I just covering the black, and I just used my little roller through a stencil to make those little plus signs, and look how beautiful it prints. Really stunning. I'm so impressed. All those markings I printed, and later on I figure out just to use a different little palette for my black, so I don't have to roll it out on the jelly plate. Alright, so this is, I cut the leaves with my Silhouette Cameo, just taking them off, and now I'm using a little bit of Mod Podge and just sticking them down. These leaves are not cut from any kind of cardstock, it's just plain paper, so I had to be very careful when I removed them because they're very fragile, you know, and they can tear off easily, and those stems are very tiny, so just be a little careful there. And and I did stick some down on that one too, just adding the bird. And I'm still mindful, you know, for little creases, not to have any paper on creases. It just never folds well, so I like to cut it. That's why I'm cutting it. This is one of my favorite stencils. Actually, I should just put it in the trash because I've been using it so much. This is the one part I regret, that when I printed it, I'm like, oh, I don't want this is horrible, I don't want it, so don't do this part. Okay, so it's the black leaves are pretty, but I think it just made such a mess, you know. On the page was actually beautiful, but hey, I'm all for taking chances, right? So then you'll see how I'm going to cover it up. And then the words, I used my silhouette cameo and I just cut words, and I just turned the stencil around so that it's reversed, and then you can stamp and it will show up correctly on your page. And guess what? I didn't even made a mistake here. I actually knew to do this because I made mistakes on other pages. But anyway, I also figured out fairly quickly just to roll my ink. Maybe I've said this already, on a different palette, so that I don't make a mess on my jelly plate. And these little offcuts from the pages that I cut is perfect to just hide little flaws. And actually, I like the printing that happened on those little offcuts as well. So now I'm going to try and fix that black leaf situation that I created there that I didn't love. So I'm just going to press some white on it, and this white is fairly transparent, so it pushes back, pushed a little bit too much back. So I'm going to just use a baby wipe and just wipe away on the leaves just to reveal a little bit of the green again, but the rest I want covered. And this is just fun. Like, I wanted to do some color blocking, and I just decided to do some color blocking with blue. So you'll see that I will just print some very specific areas with this color, and that's a very fun way of doing it. Actually, I had a vision in my mind that I wanted to do more color blocking than I actually did, but in the end, you know what, it turned out exactly as it should. I don't regret anything. So there's a little bit of blue left on my roller, and that's one thing that I figured out fairly quickly, is that I'll probably get a couple more brayers or ink rollers, or in my case paint rollers. So now I'm just going to print the leaves, and you know what, this is just how you layer, and you continue in your work, and you add more color and darker color and lighter color, and however you want to do it. There's no right or wrong. So this is maybe a more see, I just wanted a color block on one side, and on that side then I just used the same blue, printed again. So this is how you actually fill up your pages really quickly, as you work in both books at the same time. So you basically use the ink or the paint on your jelly plate twice, and I found that that's a very, very effective way to make this little album, because before I knew it, I was done with all the pages. So now I'm just going to do a little bit of stencil work again. And ideally, you don't want to be rolling on your jelly plate. I think it just creates a lot of mess to clean up. So I did figure that out eventually. I would also like to get a few smaller jelly plates at this stage, so that when I do little detail work, for instance those black markings, I can just do it on a little one, and then I can flip it over and just print on my actual page itself, because then you can see a little bit, because the jelly plate is transparent, right? So you'll know exactly where to print. So now I'm just drawing a little drawing, almost reminiscent of the front cover that we did, and I am just going to just see what's happening if I make marks and just print with that. So that's just a very oh, it just worked out perfectly. Again, if you consider this a exercise in mark making, then I also think it's a very cool way to think of this whole project. And again, the stickers that I printed, which is a brilliant idea, work great. If you want to use illustrations, then maybe just print it on plain paper, so the thinnest paper that you can find, because you don't want anything too bulky, otherwise your album will bulk up way too quickly. And also the main thing on my album will be the words, so I just wanted to create space to write. So I will be writing in my little album, and then maybe in a week or two I'll share the final, you know, the album with all the words in it as well. So I don't know if you noticed, but all the words in my little album starts with R. So this is reveal, and then there's romance and restore, and a lot of R words. And that was just the theme of this year for me. And so that's a little personal, but you know, you can create your own little stencils on with your cutting software, whatever you use, whether it's a Silhouette or a Cameo. I use the Silhouette Cameo, and there's a link in the description to the Silhouette Cameo. I just love it, but then again, it's the only thing I know. I've had my Silhouette Cameo since 2012, so I've been working on it forever. So I love the software and I know it back and front. The font that I used was Bebas, and that's really a fabulous font if you want to cut. So that's just a little tip. I did my monoprinting here through a stencil, so I put the stencil right on my page, and you can see how beautiful the you know, the markings are on the actual jelly plate right now, and that's what I want to do. I just want to capture that, and then I'm going to go from there. So, okay, you can see the whole idea of my jelly plate journey here is just to use what I have. So if I use red or pink or whatever, I'm just going to do it on both pages. I'm not overthinking things. I'm not planning everything out. I knew I wanted some areas like color blocked, and other than that, I didn't have any big thinking going on. So you can use paper to just block some areas off, you know, and or whatever you want to do. It's really just a very intuitive process at this page. At did I just say page? At this stage, people. Okay. So, okay. Moving on here. You got to laugh a little bit sometimes, and you know what, I can edit all these moments out, but I sometimes just choose not to, because it just shows you I'm just so human, and the chair I'm sitting on is squeaking. So if you hear some squeaking noises, it's my chair, nothing else. Okay, so this is again the leaves that I printed from that jelly plate print, and it's very thin, so I just used plain paper to print it, and now I'm just going to adhere it with a little bit of Mod Podge, and luckily the Mod Podge dried very dry, so it wasn't tacky at all, which is very nice. You know, you don't want anything tacky on your page, otherwise the two pages will stick together, but Mod Podge doesn't do that. It's just always tricky in the creases, even now, you know. And then adding a little black, so I'm just going to add some markings. Again, my idea was to leave a lot of journaling space, so I wanted areas where I can write on that doesn't have any paint or dark paint on it. So that's why I'm just using the color blocking, especially lighter color blocking. And here I'm just stencil printing, so fun. And then marking, stencil printing. So this little stencil that you can find in my Artist Trading Cards digital kit is very, very functional. And it's one of those things that I actually would use again and again and again. So honestly, you can use it over and over on all sorts of projects. You don't have to only use it on the Artist Trading Cards. And now I'm just going to use a little bit of white. I have 3 rollers, you probably saw that. And I am going to, I just took off that bird and I'm just going to stick it back on. And I just want a little bit lighter on that side. So with that little bird, you can actually paint it with a little bit of Mod Podge, like I'm going to do now. You can just paint it. And the nice thing about having the jelly plate is because the paint are so thin, it dries literally in a heartbeat. It dries so quick. I love, love, love the printed areas. And there you can see how beautiful it is. And then I'm just going to use what's on my jelly plate again and just cover another area. This is one of my favorite pages. I love the blue, and I love what's happening on the bottom here with the red and the white. It looks so graphic, and that's what I love. Okay, so I think by now you get a feeling for what I'm doing. It's that I'm interested in a few things. Number one, I'm interested in putting color blocking on. Number two, I'm interested in layers. And number three, I'm interested in mark making. And I think number four, you can say that I'm not super concerned about anything really. No. I'm just looking at the video. I'm not very attached to the outcome, and I think it's maybe because I just want to create space to write, and that is the number one purpose of this little album, is for me to write in. So I just decided that I'm just going to go with the flow and just let it be what it is. Okay, so I didn't quite show the process there, but what I did was I added green and yellow, and then I also added leaves and monoprinted that. And now I'm just painting with white paint. And I was thinking, how is this going to translate in a monoprint? So now I'm just pressing, those are the backs, I think, of the two booklets. So they're not gonna, they will be facing, it's the middle. So, and look how lovely it printed, the actual painting. So that's something that I might do again. And also, because I don't really know what a jelly plate can do, this was also just that wonderful little exercise in mark making, experimenting, and seeing how far I can push the jelly plate. And even though I did only just a few techniques with this one, but one thing that I really found worked great was printing words like here through the stencil. That really worked great. The mark making was awesome, you know. And then another thing that I love was the layering. Like, love it. So that is just like a print off, so it's not the actual first print, second print, and I just loved even that. So now this is probably one of my favorite pages as well. I'm doing a light pink, and I'm going to print. So this is the front of my little album, and you can see I'm just putting some leaves on there and keeping it close with my scissors, and I'm just going to print the pink. And this is the first and the very last page of my album. Now that already I love. And then I decided, let's take it a step further and do red. So I'm putting a little bit of red at the bottom, and I'm going to roll it out, and that paint tube is almost empty. I'm just going to roll it out, and then I'm just going to print the bottom halves of the, and look at that. I just loved it. I loved having how it turned out. Like, it just blew me away how beautiful it would be. So last and first page. And then I decided to put my designs right slap dab in the middle. So it almost hides the, the transition between the red and the green. Or the red and the pink, sorry. I'm painting with green, just a little Mod Podge, few leaves there, and then I just love it. So I think maybe I was getting tired at this point, but I just decided to keep it simple. Maybe that's something that I need to learn with my monoprinting, is that everything doesn't have to be elaborate like 16 layers. It can be 1 or 2 layers. But I loved this pink and red happening here. So I'm just going to do a few mark making, and of course I printed all over my bird here. And this is where I would like a smaller jelly plate. Can you believe? Okay, then I didn't have words. So in the end I cleaned it up, but in the end I luckily have enough stickers, so I just put on a different bird. Took it off, put it on, and I re-stamped the X's. So I love that. Even the smudged part I liked. Okay, and now I just want to put another word, just a little theme there, real love. Just going to print that down quickly, and there you go. So okay, so it did take me a little bit. It wasn't quick, but then you know what, if you think about how many pages I made, like the front and the back, say that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages that in totality that we made in this little bit of time. It probably took me an hour and a half or 2 hours. So that's a very, very fair amount of time. It's not a lot of time for a fair amount of work. So you can see the progression of time, because I went from coffee to tea, and I'm almost it's almost time for wine. And here you can see the final album. So I showed you how to bind it, and you just slide in your little booklets, and here you can see the final pages. And I will share on my Instagram stories maybe when I'm done with my whole album, finished writing it up, I will share that. I would love to see the finished product actually. So this is just something that's very personal, and I can't wait to actually use it in my personal devotion and quiet time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching the videos, having a few laughs. Thank you for your grace towards my imperfections and your kind comments, and I hope to see you on the interweb soon. Bye.